it is the 6th of January. I'm Connor Hamilton, and welcome to the Seasiders podcast preview show. We're here to preview this Saturday's FA Cup action against Hartlepool United. It is the battle of the pools, and there can only be one winner or a replay in a few weeks' time. To aid us in this preview, we're joined by Hartlepool fan Jordan Richardson. Welcome, Jordan.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be on. And
then, because it's the magic of the Cup, we have an exuberant panel with us today. Backed by popular demand, we're joined by the wonderful Mr. Joe Atherton.
Great start.
Superb. I think you're on mute, Joe. We can't hear you or Stanley.
He continues to be muted. Superb.
Yeah, we still can't hear you. You're still muted. We'll go over to Sean because we also have the Brentford journalist and Lancs live reporter Sean McGinley. He'll be waking up at 6 a.m. to get to the game for his press duties.
Yes, and I just cannot wait. You can see the sheer ecstatism in my face, just wanting to be there. And also, there's no replay because the FA have scrapped replays, so it will be decided on the day.
I was trying to say that, but clearly my microphone wasn't working at the time.
Yeah. I'm glad I got in there. Me and Joe had this glance of who's going to correct him first. I won the day.
Fair enough. I'll put that down to my shoddy research. It's been a great start to the pod so far. Hopefully, Jordan will set us right and put us on a better track with some analysis around Hartlepool. So, welcome again, Jordan. Could you tell us a little bit more about kind of how long you've supported Hartlepool and how you became a Hartlepool United fan?
Yeah, so I noticed earlier there's a slight reference to the playoff games of Blackpool in the early 90s, but that was a bit more before my time. My first games were the 2004-05 season. And incidentally, that was our playoff campaign, so you could call me a bit of a glory supporter for that. But yeah, since 2004-05, that's my first memories of supporting Pools, and I think I've had a season ticket this year. This year's my 10th year as a season ticket holder.
Wow, excellent. And it does seem, you mentioned glory support there, dating back to 2004, 2005. I'm sure you'll have had even more fans jumping on the bandwagon recently, because it seems like the club is in a bit of a successful run. Promoted from the conference last year, I believe. Sitting pretty, I think, 15th in the table, third round of the FA Cup. What's the mood like around Hartlepool fans at the moment?
At the moment, there's a bit of a mixture. When we first got promoted, we were riding the crest of a wave. Everyone was buzzing. There was so much optimism going into. Obviously, we finished the season quite late. I think we had 6 weeks to get a squad together for the start of the new season. From that, we had players leave, key players, loans weren't extended, and it was a bit of all the optimism slowly started to fade away. But then we had a great start of the season, especially at home with Dave Challoner. All the momentum we built from last season seemed to carry over into this season, and obviously everything was going so well. Dave Challoner signed his new contract, and then at the end of October, we got beat 5-0 by Leyton Orient away. And then on the Monday, it was announced that he was leaving to join Stockport County in the league below. And from that, there was a lot of panic and worry, and that seemed to derail our season a little bit because it took us a month to appoint a manager. And now we've got a manager in Graham Lee at the moment. When things aren't going the same way as the way at the start of the season, there is a bit of panic. So it is a mixture of people are buzzing at the moment, happy to be in the league, and there's others who do think we could do a little bit better, and it was proven when Dave was in charge that we can do so. Yeah, to be honest, to be in League Two at the moment, to be in the FL club again is amazing, especially when you consider our budget compared to the National League teams who were in and around us last season. There wasn't the budget we had. There was no way we should have got promoted, especially when you look at Stockport and Wrexham. It's been well documented how much money they've got at the moment. So that was our time to get promoted. We did. Under Challoner, I thought we probably could have pushed on for the playoffs. Obviously, he's left the club now. We've got Graham Lee in charge. So things, they took a bit of we lost a bit of momentum there. We're starting to steady the ship a little bit, and hopefully this month could be a big month for us in terms of bringing in players, and we can consolidate our place in League Two, and then we can look on to next season and see what we can do. Because for this league, and I know Blackpool were in League Two not so long ago, but I do believe in League Two, if you choose to stand still as a football club, you will go backwards. So I'm hoping we can keep moving forward.
Joe, you want to go in? No? All right. Never mind. I'll carry on then. So tell us a little bit more about your journey in the Cup so far, Jordan. Google tells me you had a very good thrashing of Sheffield Wednesday in the last round. Tell us a bit more about that, and obviously your success in the first round as well.
So the Sheffield Wednesday game, we're a bit of a cup team this season. So the Sheffield Wednesday game was actually the Papa John's Trophy. So we've had a couple of big scalps in that so far. We've played League One teams like Morecambe, Sheffield Wednesday, Bolton, and we've beaten them all. Well, aside from Morecambe, which we won on penalties, we thrashed Sheffield Wednesday, and it was a hard win the other night against Bolton. As for the FA Cup, it was so pleasing that we didn't have to qualify again, because in the National League you have to qualify for the first round of the FA Cup, which was a big culture shock for us when we first got relegated in 2017. So obviously when you're looking at the round one ties, you're looking for a local game. We ended up getting it was Wickham at home, I believe it was. Trying to think if that was it was Wickham we got at home, which isn't the prettiest of ties, but winnable. We drew with them 2-2 at our place, and then we went to their place on a Tuesday night and won 1-0, which shows the grit and the resolve of the team we have. Then we went to Lincoln in round two. We took 1,000 fans to Lincoln. They were going through a bit of a tough spell with their home form and Michael Appleton, and we managed to get a 1-0 win there, and that put us in round three. So you're thinking, excellent, Man United away, Liverpool away, Newcastle away, Middlesbrough away, and we get Blackpool at home. So I can gather that Blackpool probably thought the same about drawing us in the cup. But yeah, we're really pleased with the cup runs we had this season, because it's shown we can really compete with teams from the leagues above. We've not played a championship team yet this season, so it'll be a good test on Saturday to see how we get on. But so far, so good. We're still in the Papa John's Trophy, and we're looking forward to what could happen on Saturday. And hopefully, if we get to round four, we can get that big tie that we're all dreaming of.
Phenomenal. Well, I was really excited for this pod, because I'm often criticised for not saying the full names of the Sheffield teams correctly. And I went and I was so proud I said Sheffield Wednesday, and it turned out to be the wrong bloody team anyway. But any team that beats Lincoln City is all right by us. So we've not had the opportunity to watch Hartlepool much this season. I think already at all. I think the game was actually our League Two season in 2016, 2017, when many Blackpool fans were boycotting. How would you summarise kind of Hartlepool's, style of play?
I think there's a big emphasis on, especially at the start of the season, on our formation and playing of our wing backs. So we usually operate in a 3-5-2 with Nicky Ferguson as the anchor, who sits in front of the defenders. He allows a bit of cover because we do like to play. Well, we did like to play quite high under Chalner, and the wing backs would bomb on forward. And we would really press teams. We, especially last season in the National League, if you watch any of our games, you'll see how fit we were. We were really aggressive, and we from the start of the game, first 15-20 minutes, we would be all over the opposition. Obviously, a little bit different coming to this season. We still have operated in the same system, playing the same sort of players. Trying to utilise the strengths that we have, especially with the wing backs. David Ferguson at left wing back and Jamie Sterry at right wing back. And obviously, with Chalner going and Graham Lee coming in, I don't think Graham Lee wanted to tinker too much with what was working for us. So he has kept the shape. The 3-5-2 we're still playing with that, but he's tried to tinker it a little bit with a few experiments. He's tried the long ball up to Mark Cullen, who, as you'll know, isn't the tallest striker in the world, and more recently in games that we obviously with the long ball, fans are starting to grow quite frustrated with that, especially because we know we're not football managers. We haven't got no coaching badges or anything, but we know what works. Haven't seen how successful we were at the start of the season with it. So to go from that to hoofing it, it just didn't make no sense, especially when we don't have the biggest players on the pitch as it is. So from that, last two games, we played Oldham on Saturday, and obviously we played Bolton on Tuesday night. And we've noticed he started to operate instead of going long, he started to put a ball down the channel or running behind for the strikers. So it's been interesting to see how he's thinking it. But we have been a little bit frustrated because at the start of the season we were playing really good football. Teams really didn't know how to play against it, and to obviously change it, it's been a bit frustrating for us. But yeah, Graham Lee's still learning. He'll obviously want to put his style of play onto the team when he brings in his own players. Obviously, that's the reason for him tinkering in recent weeks. So yeah, I think what you'll see from us on Saturday is something similar to what you saw from the highlights against Bolton. We'll probably look to soak up, and we'll probably sit behind the ball for the periods that you've got the ball. So we'll probably look to counter from that. We tried it a few times on Tuesday. We were a bit feeble in front of goal or with the final pass. We got a great bit of luck when Joel Dixon played it in the Matty Daly, but that just shows if you're in the positions, you got a chance to score. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I think there won't be too many surprises if you've watched Hartlepool all season. But yeah, I think there will be one or two elements in there that even those Pools fans are surprised by, because we still don't know how Graham Lee will want to play. I mean, as I say, the first few examples of it is he wants to play a long ball into the striker, which it's not us. So yeah, I'm really interested to see how we go. If it's anything like Tuesday, I think we could be successful in the game. But obviously, Blackpool are higher league than Bolton, far more quality, and you're not doing too badly for yourselves in the Championship at the moment anyway. So it's going to be an interesting time. We're really looking forward to it.
Hey Jordan, who would you say that the main danger men are for us to watch out for? And another question, Blackpool ticket sales haven't been amazing for this game coming up. I think we've sold about 500 so far. A lot of that possibly down to the situation, obviously, in the country at the minute with COVID. But what's put pains to me going is the 12:30 kickoff.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that type of kickoff game? Do you think that will have a massive effect on your attendance? And what's your opinion on international markets potentially ruining a big payday for you guys?
Yeah, I'll start with obviously the first point about the threats in our team. I would we had a lad called Tyler Bury on loan from Millwall. Now, obviously, with the situation surrounding COVID and teams being light on numbers because of injuries and illnesses, they've actually recalled him. So he was somebody who I would have put forward as a threat, because he's been brilliant for us this season when he was fit. Aside from that, I would probably say Luke Molyneux. He's typically a winger. However, he's been shoehorned into a slot up front in the 3-5-2. He's not the tallest player. However, he's really good with his feet. He's about 5'9", which again, going back to it, I don't know why we were hoofing the ball to two players who are 5'9". But yeah, Luke Molyneux will be a threat. He's energetic. He's quick. And yeah, he's got an eye for goal as well. He's been really impressive for us this season, especially having he didn't really get a look in last year because we obviously didn't operate with wingers. And I think there was a reluctance on his part to squeeze into a left back. There was talk of him playing left wing back, but obviously he's played as a striker this year, and he's doing really well for it. Another player I would say to look out for is Gavin Holland, our midfielder, our Irish midfielder. You'll probably hear the song on Saturday about him. He's just came back from injury. He's a key asset for us. He's a goal scorer midfielder. He makes late runs into the box. He's energetic. He's got a great attitude, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing him back in the team on Saturday, because I think he's made one start since October maybe. So yeah, we're really looking forward to that. On to the point about the 12:30 kickoff. As a home fan, you can obviously get away with it a little bit more because I live in the town and very local, so getting to the ground and stuff like that for timings isn't going to be as bad. However, as an away fan, I can imagine it's extremely frustrating because it's not like it's a 45-minute drive. It's not like it's Hartlepool v Newcastle, for example, where you could probably get away with that kick-off time. It does seem a little bit pointless, especially with it being televised abroad. I mean, can you think of many people who are going to be interested in watching Hartlepool v Blackpool on a live stream?
We both have big Dubai supporters clubs, actually. Hartlepool.
Yeah.
Or something.
I hear
That could be the reason.
The outer Mongolian seasiders are absolutely massive.
If there are any, rich businessmen in Dubai who would like to buy Hartlepool United, please do get in touch, and we'll put you in touch with Jordan.
Oh, absolutely! I'd have to take that. We'd be top of the league in no time. We'd be like Newcastle, but just on a watered down version of it.
Oh. So, kind of, you talked about kind of seeing us in the Championship, etc. Our position, obviously well informed, certainly more well informed than I am. Clearly on your cup history. Kind of, what are your impressions of Blackpool? What are you expecting from the game? And crucially, what do you think the score will be?
I've not kept a huge eye on Blackpool since they got promoted. Obviously, I know are you still sitting above the relegation zone or around mid-table? Yeah. Which, similar situation to us, you probably just want to consolidate the season and then kick on in the summer for next year. So, I'm interested because we've not played a Championship opposition. I think under Challoner, and I keep referring to Dave Challoner, I think we would have had a right good go. But under Graham Lee, you simply don't know what Hartlepool United side you're going to get. He got it right on Tuesday night and deserves a lot of credit for it, but he's also got it horribly wrong at times. For example, on Boxing Day at Mansfield, we were 2-0 up with half an hour to go, and we ended up losing the game 3-2. So I'm interested in myself, but obviously in terms of a scoreline prediction, you've always got to go for your own team, and I'm going to put it out there: 1-0 Pools, Mark Cullen, overhead kick.
Oh, so you've gone for the former player there, scoring a decisive goal.
Yeah, got to, haven't I?
It's ironic because none of us have probably seen Mark Cullen play live for Blackpool due to the boycott. There's all these players that played under a 5-6 year period that a lot of Blackpool fans will have never seen play a game.
Yeah.
And Mark Cullen, unfortunately, is one of them. Although, obviously, he did have a fairly good goal-scoring record for us in League Two. Was part of that team, Gary Bowyer even, who got us promoted back up to League One. So, no ill feelings towards Mark Cullen, and there'll certainly be no vitriol if he does end up scoring the winner for you.
Yeah, I remember we played on Boxing Day at our place, and he scored. And at the time, you look at a player like Mark Cullen, and we think we're crying out for that sort of striker. Just someone who has an eye for goal, really, 6-yard boxing. A lot of goals he scored this season for us have just been from being in the right place at the right time. So it's been frustrating for him because he came on trial in the summer in his first game. He pulled his hamstring, and there were question marks over his fitness, and people are thinking, well, that's just another panic signing. But he's had a run of games. He's came into his own a little bit, and I quite like the look of him, to be honest.
Fair enough. Sean, your score and match prediction?
Yeah, it's a difficult one because I think Christian was kind of saying today about you need the mentality right in a game like this, and you'll have a couple of players not available as a coach, so it'll be an interesting one. But I think last season I thought we were quite clinical and professional in games like this against Eastbourne and Harrogate, so I'm going to go 3-0. I think we'll be okay. I think 20 minutes if we can get an early goal, it'll settle everything down, and then we can try and control the game.
All right. Bold confidence there from Sean. Joe, do you agree?
I think it entirely depends on what type of team goes out. And I mean that in respect to not how serious, because obviously listening to Neil Critchley press conference, he obviously takes the cup seriously and wants to progress as far as he can. But by the same token, our injury situation, we've had another couple of COVIDs as well. it's going to be interesting to see what team we put out. If we put out a half decent team and don't fill it full of these youth lads that have just signed 18-month contracts today, I think it'll be a tough game. I'm expecting a difficult game. I don't want to be the man of cliches and go difficult place to go, close to the pitch and all that nonsense. Even though it is, because I've been to the ground before. We'll get on that later. I think we'll nick it. I can see Hartlepool scoring. I think it'll be 2-1, but a very, very close game. And I wouldn't be surprised if it went to extra time either.
There we go. So we've had a Hartlepool win, close game, maybe Blackpool win, and Sean predicting the Blackpool blowout. In terms of our wonderful commenters, we've got Richard, who agrees with Sean on a 3-0 win to Blackpool. Got Steve, who agrees with Joe and being a 2-1 to the real pool.
Fighting words.
Yeah, exactly. Richard is between the two of them saying 3-1 to us. And then Mitch has chimed in and said that if Gary Medine plays, we'll win 4-0. And if he doesn't, we'll have a draw. Presumably, Gary can score the winning penalty in Mitch's version of events. Personally, I think I'm going to go 2-0. I think, we've got quality, we've got depth. I don't think any of our players are too bad. This is the kind of game where I think, Critch may experiment with a 4-2-3-1 and the kind of game we may have enough of the ball to really make that work and have a good go at it. So I'm hopeful of a 2-0 victory, and Paul is jumping on that train with me. Thank you very much, Paul. So that's a brief preview of the match coming up. Looking back to the past, it's time for our wonderful segment of, as soon as I can find the hint, they played for both. Where we go and walk down nostalgia lane and evaluate some of the many great players who have played for both Blackpool and Hartlepool United. We've spoken a lot about Mark Cullen already, but we had a good suggestion from Steve in the comments of David Ferguson as well.
Yeah, I put him in because I don't know if you remember the way that he got given the captaincy at Blackpool. But Sky Sports were going around the training grounds, and he went to our training ground under Neil McDonald in the relegation season when we went straight down from League One to League Two. And he announced David Ferguson as the captain, and no one knew who David Ferguson was. And then we just gave him the captaincy.
I still don't know who David Ferguson is, to be honest.
He was.
I'm going to regret that when he scores the winner now on Saturday, aren't I?
Yeah, so he was a left back, and he was given the captaincy, and then about 6 months later, he was at Shildon in non-league. He played a limited amount of games for us. So
I remember that. I do remember that. That's
utterly bizarre times.
To be fair, in that time period, I could probably say the same about the entire squad. I literally wouldn't know any of them if they sat next to me on the bus.
Fair enough. Well, he probably won't sit next to you on the bus because he's in Hartlepool.
Good. Fair play.
How has Mr. Ferguson performed for you, John?
We really liked it, to be fair. So he signed for us on the back of a good season for York. So it was the season that got obviously we went through COVID and they played their playoff campaign in June and July. Obviously they reached the semi-finals of the National League North playoff, lost the game, and then we signed Ferguson literally in August, I think it was. So he didn't have much of a break. He had a good season, 15 assists for York, came into us and he just hit the ground running. Obviously, he probably carried on the momentum from that season at York, and he's been pivotal to how we play. I mentioned earlier about the 3-5-2 and playing as a left wing back, and he's very athletic. He's up and down the line. He causes a big threat. He's got a great crossing ability as well. And this season we've seen he's got a bit of an eye for goal. So that goal could be coming on Saturday as well. But no,
and it'll be all my fault.
We paid money for him as well. I'm pretty sure we bought him and Connor Oliver, these two Sunderland lads, for like 30 grand.
Yeah, we had Oliver on loan. He wasn't too great. I think he's at Gateshead now.
Yeah, the dream team.
What I'm establishing here is that Oyston era Blackpool was basically a feeder for Hartlepool.
Did you end up signing that lad we signed from a bloody corner shop from Blythe Spartans?
Oh yeah,
What was
I
that
remember
lad's
him.
name?
Jarrett Rivers. Jarrett
Yeah.
Rivers.
There you
Oh no, so when he was at, well, here's a story about Jarrett Rivers. I think you signed him on the back of Blythe's FA Cup campaign,
Yeah.
and he scored a 90th minute goal against us live on BBC. We went 1-0 up. Blythe were like 5 leagues below us at the time or whatever, and they won it. Came from behind to win it, and Alan Shearer gave them a massive speech at the end of the game and how good they were. And obviously, it was awful for us. So I think after that got him to move to Blackpool. And I think when he was at Blackpool, there was talks of him coming on loan to us. Obviously, nothing materialised, and I think he's actually at Darlington now. I think he went back to Blythe, and then Blythe's manager Alan Armstrong went to Darlington, and he took Jarrett Rivers with him to Darlington. So yeah, I take it you didn't rate him then.
Who knows?
Who knows? Mitch Cook's left foot, or Blackpool blogs, has come in and said that Mitch Cook, the left back from the 90s, has actually played for both Blackpool and Hartlepool. Both in the mid-90s, probably before all of our times, maybe.
Not before my time. I remember him playing for Blackpool in 91, 92-ish. So it must have been right at the beginning of the 90s or the early 80s.
Do you happen to know his ex-wife, because she is looking for him? According to that mismatch.
That sounds really ominous. No, I don't. Sorry.
Sorry if you remember that. That's just like a niche reference between 3 people, even though we're on a live podcast. But yeah.
Could end up with Mitch Cook's paternity test as the next username.
Matt, the runner of the Mitch Cook's left foot blog, is clarifying it was actually his ex-girlfriend who got in touch with the pod looking for him. So an important clarification there. I'm going to throw out one that is a little bit rogue. Scott Flinders is a goalkeeper that Blackpool had. I think for
he
a
never
season.
played for us.
Yep, didn't play a single game for us, but he was in the squad and then eventually went to Hartlepool. Jordan, obviously we never got to saw how good he was. Was he any good?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was really good. I really like Scott Flinders. I think we signed him from Palace. But yeah, he was really good for us. Good shot stopper. His distribution wasn't the best. He would hang on the ball for quite a while. But I've actually seen him score for us against Bournemouth. It was 10 years ago. Yeah, May 2011 it was. We went 2-0 down to Bournemouth, pulled it back. He had a couple of howlers in the first half, so that's just contradicted what I've said about him. But yeah, we were in no trouble to stay in the league or anything like that. But he came up for the corner and scored a header.
I love that. I think there's 3 things in football that should be compulsory viewing. It's penalty shootouts, when outfield players have to go in goal, and when goalkeepers score. Well,
we had a goalkeeper score against us in the playoff final. I don't know if you've seen it.
Oh yeah.
95th minute, and it's not the best feeling in the world when you're moments away from getting back into the football league and a goalkeeper.
I was going to say, as a neutral, that was an absolutely cracking game, but I couldn't imagine supporting either team on that day. Bloody hell!
Oh, the game. You think people say about finals that they really enjoyed the day in the game, but I hated every minute of the game. Even when we were 1-0 up, you just want the game to be over. You can't enjoy it. There's nothing enjoyable about being anxious and nervous about what's to come. And obviously, the worst did happen, but thankfully we pulled apart in the penalty shootout. But the feelings I had when that goalkeeper scored, well, I wouldn't wish on anybody. It's just I would rather have COVID, and I had COVID a few weeks after the playoff final. I would much rather have COVID than do that again, I'll tell you.
Fair enough. Mitch coming in with an important question of, has a goalie ever scored against an outfield player in goal? Stick your questions on an envelope and send it to the pod. We'll reveal the answer on our next broadcast. Right, finally, it is time for the next segment where we look back on fixtures of past in head-to-head. Sharing my screen now. Blackpool have won most of the fixtures, winning 13 of the 27 we've played across history. First played each other in 1984, when we had 2-2 draws in Division 4. But our most recent games, as referred to earlier, came in League 2, and Blackpool won them both. Below are the recent results going all the way back to 1995, I think. Are there any that stick into the minds of our illustrious panellists?
I've got two, and I'll go way back when. One of my first ever games as a Blackpool fan was Hartlepool at home in September 1990. I think it must have been either my second or third game, because Rochdale at home on September the 1st of that year was my first ever game. So it's got to be one of my first ever home games, and I think it was probably the first time I saw us won as well, because the opening game I went to as a Blackpool fan was a 0-0 draw. So that properly set me up for a lifetime of supporting Blackpool. Thrilling 0-0 draw with Rochdale. I went on YouTube earlier and cheated, and the highlights of that game are actually up on YouTube. We won 2-0, goals from David Ayres and Paul Groves. And I'm probably just saying names to you three because
I was going to say, that game is so old, Connor hasn't even screenshotted that part of the...
Yeah, exactly. The next game that I went to, some of you might have gone to, though, the 2004 away game. It was 1-1 at Hartlepool. It was the coldest I have ever been at a football ground in my life.
I hear that a lot.
Including going to Oldham Athletic in any month. That's probably the second I've ever been cold. It's coldest. Indeed he is, Mitch. Indeed he is. Yeah, we have a love-hate relationship with David Ayres. He was fantastic for us. And then our chairman at the time, Owen Oyston, offered him a terrible wage, and he went to then rivals Burnley. And then to rob further salt in the wound, he went on to play for Preston North End. And whenever he played for Burnley or Preston, he'd always score against us and always have a blinder. So yeah, those of a certain vintage certainly will have a love-hate relationship with David Ayres. But getting back to that game in 2004, I remember it being freezing. I remember not being able to feel my toes. I remember going 1-0 down, and I remember Mike Sherron scoring an absolute screamer for us. And I think it was one of about 4 goals he ever scored for us. And to put emphasis on how dodgy our team was, Steve McMahon Jr. kept Keith Southern out of the team. He was on the bench.
Oh, fair enough. Tim saying that, Joe, every Blackpool fan's first game was 0-0. It's the rules.
Mine was 6-3 after extra time in the LDV Vans Trophy against Huddersfield in 2004.
All right.
And they got Sam Sodje sent off. So that was my first Blackpool game. So I had 9 goals. So
disgusting. Such profligacy, riches. Fair enough. No, I think mine was a 0-0 as well. It's required to properly condition you to life as a Blackpool fan. You've got to get set up for the disappointment early.
All I remember was having a hot dog at half time and throwing up midway through the second half. So obviously wasn't quite cooked to perfection back in the old days in the old South Stand.
Fair enough. Jordan, do any of these games bring up memories for you?
Obviously, the only recent ones for me, the home game that we played on Boxing Day, and then the away game in March 2017. They're obviously, like I said, the most recent ones. They're the ones I remember. It was a great away day because it's weird. I look at that and I say it's the end of March, but it was absolutely boiling. It was amazing. It was like middle of summer, and so it was even better when we were having our drinks. And obviously the Boxing Day game, yeah. I remember that one because of I think we had a penalty. Lewis Alessandro stepped up to take it and he blazed it over the bar. And after that, our manager at the time, Craig Higney, absolutely hung him out to dry in the press, saying it was his fault we didn't get anything on the day. Because I think the penalty might have been at 0-0. I can't remember for sure, but I just remember days after that there was a lot of bickering in the supporters groups and whatnot about the comments over Alessandro. And to be fair, it was a bit uncalled for in hindsight. And Hignett lost his job a month later after that, and that's when it all started to go wrong for us. So yeah, I'll never forget those 2 games because I won't forget that season. As I say, look, you can only 10 years prior we last played Blackpool, so they are few and far between in recent years. So yeah, I didn't go to the other games before that. 2006, no, it doesn't ring a bell. 2004, I think my first game was October 2004, so I wouldn't have been to that one. And obviously all before my time, the ones before that.
Fair enough. We're getting reports in of other people's first game. Matt/Mitch is reporting food poisoning that hooked him for life. Gemma saying she banged her head in the paddock and ended up with rust in her hair. I think this is enough for a podcast all in itself. We should just get regular listeners to come tell us about their first ever game. But we won't do that, because now it is time for Jordan to sadly leave us and for us to move on to some sprinkles of transfer news, transfer gossip, and setting out our lineup for the match at the weekend. Jordan, thank you very much for your time for joining us today.
No problem. Thanks for having me on.
Cheers, Jordan.
Cheers. Thank you.
And I will remove my screen. There we go. Now, lads, do you want to do transfer window talk first or set out our lineup for Hartlepool first?
Do the transfer talk, because I'd imagine that won't take long. We're signing nobody at the minute, and it's just agent talk, because that's all they do. They make up stuff to get interest in their clients. God, I'm sounding like Carl Oyston. Sorry, guys.
It's all right. Well, I think there might be a lot to talk about in terms of outgoings. We've obviously lost Ryan Wintle. Cardiff have done us dirty and claimed this magnificent player back. How
dare they get their own property back? Damn them.
Look, all I'm saying is that if you leave stuff in Blackpool, you shouldn't necessarily expect to get it back.
Possession being 9/10 of the law.
So, well, how big a gap do you think that's going to be for the rest of the season? How much are we going to miss him?
Hugely. I adore Ryan Wintle with every fibre of my being.
I was just going to say, I can see the tears in your eyes, Sean.
It was honestly, when that announcement came, because the thing was, I wasn't expecting it as soon as it came. Then sort of the noises from Cardiff and the Blackpool end were both that the window for the recall wasn't yet, and it was going to be in another week or two. But I think they've probably just come to the mutual agreement. Obviously, he couldn't play in the cup anyway. And I think they've kind of just come to the agreement of, look, we are going to recall him, so let's just sort of pull the plaster off now and allow you the opportunity to build on it. I mean, Neil Critchley, as ever, is quite upbeat on it. He has full faith that sort of the players that need to come in will come in, but I struggle to believe that you can bring in a player of Ryan Wintle's quality in January. I don't think it's possible. I don't think that that's a player that we'll be able to replace. But saying that, if you bring in 2 central midfielders who are both of adequate quality, I think that's better than having Ryan Wintle as the one option by himself and flogging him for the next 6 months. So it's a balance, I guess. Obviously, Ryan Wintle's someone that I'd have loved to keep around. I think he's someone you can build a team around in terms of your central midfield. And if you wanted to sort of go up the levels, I think Ryan Wintle potentially is a player that you can keep in your side and he would still remain to do that. But like I say before, I think that if you're looking at evaluating the squad generally, and if we can if this forces us to bring in a couple of central midfield additions that we wouldn't have already done, then I think that works out better for us in the long run. But obviously, it's the quality of player that we bring in the end. But I trust that, as Critchley said, these things, all these what-if scenarios have been thought about for months on end. We've got every basis covered now. We're well-structured and organised in terms of our recruitment. So there'll definitely be multiple players that they're looking at and multiple avenues to go down.
Do you think that we might end up in the same boat with Dujon Sterling? Because I noticed that they're picking up quite a lot of injuries in the fullback position, aren't they?
Yeah, well, I asked him about this today, and you'll find out his answer tomorrow. You know, a little plug there. I'm not gonna bleed it out like that, but him obviously, Tyrese John Jules. I would be very, very surprised if Tyrese John Jules isn't recalled in the next week or so. Dujon Sterling, I think our probably favourite is that Ian Matson is more highly rated at Chelsea, I think, than Dujon Sterling is. And if you're looking at the area that they have sort of more of a problem in, it's left back, and Ian Matson fills that position. Obviously, Dujon Sterling is more of a right back. So I think if one's going to be recalled, it will be Ian Matson. But at the same time, Ian Matson's playing week in, week out. He's getting the game time at Coventry, and he seems to be developing week upon week. He's a player I think is a great player. So if they think about that in that terms, then I guess Dujon Sterling's a better option for them to recall, because Jordan Gabriel's going to get probably more game time than Sterling over the piece. But I think generally we'll be okay with Sterling. But at the same time, again, we still should be considering another permanent right back solution anyway, even if it's someone that we're looking at whose their contract was running down, and we were initially going to buy them in the summer, but then because the option comes up, we buy them in January. So I think that's a position we're probably already looking to strengthen, but that's probably something we'll look to do in the summer. So hopefully we'll be okay in that regard.
Fair enough. I don't think they're going to recall Dujon Sterling. You know, I think if we're all quiet enough, Chelsea have a big academy, big loan army. You know, if we're all quiet enough, they'll hopefully forget about him and leave him here for another 6 months or so.
Yeah, I was going to say, if it's COVID that they're recalling him for, then that's pretty ridiculous, to be fair, because of the size of squad and players that they have. They shouldn't need to do that.
So you did mention there that John Jules is probably likely to go out the door given his lack of game time. Joe, how do you feel about that? We've lost your audio again. We've had to come in and automatically bleep you out, given we know the strength of your response.
Have I gone again?
No, you're back. You're back.
All right. I'm having real technical issues tonight. Sorry, lads. Yeah, I'm not forced. I mean, I'm a bit perplexed as to why he's on the books of Arsenal, because I'm not really seeing anything from him. I'm sure that he's technically very good, but, you know, guys that can do keepy uppies and street magic football type things, they're very technical. They're not professionals, are they? Do you know what I mean? I think he's a waste of a loan at the minute. But again, you're at this situation with COVID where a lot of Premier League clubs are going to be very reluctant to release any players, because I think Manchester City have been really hit, and their game against who've they got? Swindon, is it, in the FA Cup, is going ahead despite them having, like, I think they got 15, 20 cases or something. Obviously, they've got about 128 players at Manchester City. So, you know, they can recall whoever they want and they'll be fine. But it's going to be difficult to get them type of players with COVID at the minute. So do you stick with a player that isn't getting any game time and probably, realistically, isn't going to get a kick unless maybe all of your strikers get injured? Or do you take a risk trying to get a player on loan during these times where you don't know if a player's going to get recalled or not? It's a difficult one.
I think that's why he's still here. I think we'll look to get an agreement with a player in place, and then hopefully then off our own accord probably send him back. But obviously it's down to Arsenal. I think it's kind of out of our hands at this point if Arsenal are debating on what to do with him, because at the end of the day they're going to have to drop him down a level. It's probably the first setback he's had in his career. So yeah, we've obviously gone over John Jules and stuff, but I just thought he lacked a bit of composure, and his decision making was a bit poor, and he just didn't look confident in his ability. He looked short of confidence a lot of the time, and he seemed to work well off the ball, and he seemed to have that build up. He seemed to have something about him, but whenever he was through on goal over it, whenever he had a decision to make at an important time, he just wasn't at it. So. And obviously, if Neil Critchley's, as much as Neil Critchley seems to rate him as a player, if he's not playing him for months on end, then he clearly thinks that he's not good enough to play at this level, which I think we were all kind of agreed on, that he probably needed a middle step again after Doncaster to the top end of League One, perhaps, and then made the Championship move, because he didn't exactly set the league alight with Doncaster either.
My controversial opinion is that I would quite like TJJ to stay. I'm still of the opinion that there is a player there.
I agree. There's a player there. I just think it's a waste of time now. I think it's too far gone.
I think if we had more cup games, I would have been really excited to see what would have happened. I don't think he made a good start in the league. We're all agreed on that. I think he did a couple of things well off the ball. I think he was excellent, but that's not really what you need your striker to do. Didn't quite have the physicality to hold it up in the same way Gary Medine does, and I think he was being asked to do that a lot of the time. I would have liked to have kind of seen him in more cup games to kind of get a better sense of what he could do and give him some confidence back. But I still think I still think there's a good player there, and I think it's a real shame it hasn't worked out. And I would like to try and see. I hope we get to see a bit more of him before we send him off, so he has a last gasp to turn it around.
I think the fact you're saying you want to see him in cup games is my point of. I think he just needed another middle step in League One first before the Championship, because that's essentially what you will be doing. We're essentially window shopping a player that's already in our squad. So if even you don't think he's got the capability to start in the Championship, generally you still need to see more of him in cup games. That's not what we need when we're not developing our. If it was our own player, fair enough, but he's not. So what's the point? Because
I don't think it was just cup game. I think the point is more nuanced. I think it's that I think he needed cup games to rebuild his confidence after a tough start in the league, and he's not had that, and as a result, not really had an opportunity.
He doesn't have reserve games either, has he?
The squad. Yeah.
We miss reserve. I think we do miss reserve games for rotation players because they kind of drop off a cliff. But yeah, as I say, we're not. I just think it's a waste of time now with keeping him. I think it's just what's the point?
Fair enough. All right, and then finally on outgoing / potential incomings, Owen Dale. Sean, what are you hearing as the latest?
So I'm laughing because I don't know what's coming next from Joe, but yeah, they're in talks. They're in discussion. So his loan ends on the 10th of January, so he is available for this cup game. To me, it sounds like we didn't have an agreement even set in stone. It was just the fact that we were going to buy him. We kind of had a range of price, but we didn't have a price set in stone. So to me, it looks like we are happy to...
Okay, I can't tell if you're keeping us in suspense.
Hello? Sorry.
Your internet's gone.
My internet just went flying.
It's all right, fine. I was building the suspense. Please carry on. Okay, never mind. We've lost Sean. At that point, I'm going to end the transfer rumours because we've lost our man with the ear to the ground, and we will move
Can you hear me now?
immediately on to football formation. Hello. Yep, we can hear you. Sounds like a bad phone call, this. All right. Formation. Picking the team against Hartlepool. Because Sean's having technical difficulties, Joe, it falls to you to make the first selection. I'll let you go anywhere on the pitch. Who is the first person on your team sheet?
Yeah, we can hear you now, Sean. I will go in goal. I will go for Grimshaw. I think that there's no need to rotate. Not that we can really rotate anyway, because the only other goalkeeper available is Moore. I'd play as many first-team players as are available for this game without going silly. I think that we shouldn't be stuffing this team with youth players. Definitely have a few youth lads on the bench, but I'd take this game fairly serious because I want a good cup run. We're virtually there. We're virtually safe in the league. And yeah, I'd like a chance to get Man United because judging their performance against Wolves, they are garbage and for the taking.
I would love to heckle Cristiano Ronaldo at Bloomfield Road.
I would be singing a certain song that Wolves were singing all game long.
Show up with a little vest that says Interpol on it to see how he reacts. All right. Centre backs. Sean, give us a name.
Well, first of all, I'll just say that we will go strong, mainly because we have no choice, but we will go strong. We've had a week's break, and I think Chris was kind of taking this as any other weekend. So I think it'll be Epithet or Keogh. Personally, I think it'll be the same partnership. At the end of the day, we've not won too many games in the league. It's a perfect chance to go and do someone over 3-4-0 at the end of the day and get some confidence going with the first team. So I think it's a good opportunity for us. So I think he'll go Epithet and Keogh.
Okay, and do you want him to go Epithet and Keogh?
Yeah, I want to go completely full strength, have a nice convincing victory and build the confidence because it's a good opportunity to do so.
Okay. We've had a question from MB in the comments arguing whether Ollie Casey deserves to get a go or signing from Leeds, who hasn't had a ton of game time yet.
I was going to say I would play one of Ekpiteta and Keogh, and then I'd get either Gretterson a game or possibly Ollie Casey. Because like you say, with there being no reserve games these days, you've kind of got these players that you can't even really get a look at, just rotting away on the bench or not even on the bench in some cases, just sat in the stands doing nothing. So I agree with Sean, play as strong a team as possible, but I'd also be looking at one or two fringe players, not overly, just, literally one or two.
Okay. So
you get the deciding vote now, Connor.
No, that's what I'm going to say. Sean can pick one of Keogh or Ekpiteta, and Joe, you can pick one of Casey or Gretterson.
Okay,
Fair
well, I'll
enough.
pick Big Marv because Big Marv is just. I think if you're going to bring in a rotation player, you want Epiteta alongside. Put Epiteta on the right as well.
All right.
But I just think you if there's ever a new centre half going into the side, then Epiteta has to be there to help them through the game. I think.
All right.
And I will go with Gretterson with Casey on the bench, and I'd like to get at least half an hour out of him at some point.
It
Just
is
need
5
to have a look at
subs.
him.
It is 9 on the bench and 5 subs for the FA Cup as well. So
That's great.
We do have a chance to put some minutes into the players if we're a couple of goals up.
Excellent. Or we can bring super subs like Gary Medina on if needed. At left back, I'm going to say we put Reece James there because Jimmy Husband's excellent, but it feels like through either centre back or left back, he's played every game for us this season. I think Reece James has been really impressive whenever he's been at left back.
Luke Garbett is fit and ready to play, so he can play. And I think he might get thrown straight in from the start. I just have a suspicion that he might because he's had his injury, but then he's actually been off recently with a non-COVID related illness. So he's kind of been fit and ready to go physically for a couple of weeks now. So I have this suspicion that he might throw Garbett.
I still want to see Reece James, but Garbett should be on the bench, and I want him definitely brought on.
Yeah. It's kind of like a second clean slate, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't see him getting 90. Yeah, sorry, I can't see him getting 90 minutes, but I think he'll definitely play at least half an hour. And if we're well in the lead at half time, again, no disrespect to any Hartlepool fans that are watching this or listening, then I'd definitely give him a full half in the second half. If you can make 5 substitutes, I'd utilise them. And yeah.
I think, like I say, it's almost like a little clean slate for Garbett, really. He had the greatest start to the league, so he's had a fair bit of time out now. So I guess it's clean slate for him, really.
Completely. And on the other flank, we have Jordan Gabriel. And is Jordan Gabriel eligible to play again, Sean? Should be,
yeah,
right?
Yes. So it wouldn't have mattered for the FA Cup anyway, but his game ban is over as well.
Great. So we have either Jordan Gabriel or Dujon Sterling or brand new 18-month youngsters, Jack Moore.
I love Jack Moore, I think he's a great player. I don't think it'd be nice to give him some minutes, to be fair, to off the bench, I think, though. But I wouldn't particularly start him, but I think he's a good player.
Fair enough. And who would you have in this right back slot, Sean?
Gabriel. Just, again, he's not played a couple of times. It's
a
nice chance to get him in. I would struggle to. I'm thinking probably the next few weeks we might play Gabriel until the January window ends in case we don't keep hold of Sterling for whatever reason, and you can then building your team ready for post-January. And if you're not entirely sure whether he'll be here or not, you might just persist with Gabriel for the month, as long as he doesn't get sent off again.
Yep. Mitch pointing a good point in the comments that Ollie Casey can play right back and has done so in the League Cup before. I think it's unlikely he'll get his minutes this way, but you never know. Critch has a dangerous and wonderful mind at times. Central midfield, Joe. Who would you put in that position?
That's a very good question. I would go Dougal with one of them, and the other. You know what? After his performance against Middlesbrough, I want to say Callum Connolly.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree. I do wonder how he'll play in this system, because obviously he played in the 3-5-2 and he had that extra protection. But I'm quite interested to see how Connolly performs. It's a good game to put him in and have another good shit under his belt as well. I'll build the confidence for him.
I think Connolly was helped greatly by the fact that against Middlesbrough he was in a 3-man midfield, as you say, Sean. Yeah. I'm less convinced about him in this, double pivot. I would like to see
game he's played this.
I would like to see, maybe Antwi, because we recalled Antwi from loan, right?
Yeah.
So I would like to see maybe him here.
I do like Antwi, but I don't see the benefit of playing him personally.
All right. Well, it looks like I've been outvoted anyway.
It's just more because I'm thinking of this if you're going to use this as a platform to play players that are going to consistently sort of have a say in the second half of the season, a good opportunity to get some minutes under Connolly's belt, given that he's going to be the centre mid for the next couple of weeks until we sign someone.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Obviously, the adoring fans agree with you anyway. Steve is saying Connolly and Kenny Dougal. Richard is saying Connolly, and Giorgio is saying that as well. Mitch believes that we should play Antwi because Mitch is sensible and says that if we don't play young players like him, we'll lose them. MB is saying he'd like to see Hamilton play. Unclear if that means on the left or on the right. I'm going to assume right. Joe, who would you want to play on that right wing?
Maybe he meant he wanted just to see the musical Hamilton. He wanted to go to the musical. Never know. I want to really contradict myself here. I'd put Dale there.
What's that, right mid?
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think if this is our last chance to get a look at him, and if he can't perform again, no disrespect, if he can't perform against the League 2 team, then he's going to be no use to us in the Championship, is he? So
I just don't think a 4-4-2 system as a direct winger is what we've signed Dale for. We've what's happened, I think, with Dale is that we've gone and tried to sign like we did at the start of the League One season. We've signed players for the 4-2-3-1, and then we've quickly gone, oh shit, we're not picking up results. We better revert to this compromised system that we're playing. And eventually, one day in his life, he will play the 4-2-3-1 system consistently when he's got this perfect scenario of players creating and taking chances, but it just doesn't. He constantly will compromise to these other systems, and Dale's going to be the one that completely misses out because it just doesn't suit any aspect of his game for me. This,
and it is worth pointing out that v Reading, I think we were playing a 4-2-3-1 system, and that's obviously the game where Dale had a sensational impact. Some calls in the comments for CJ. Matt pointing out again that, if he doesn't play in this game, what's the point of him? I am a big believer that cousin CJ should play. I think if they're playing with a left wing back, that's going to leave lots of space in behind that, a nice fast winger like CJ Hamilton could exploit.
I agree. I'd play CJ Hamilton instead of Dale at right mid.
Okay.
And then I will sign Dale for £500,000.
All right. And then, because you agreed with me, Sean, that means you get your pick at left mid.
Yeah, Keshi. Keshi is Keshi, so Keshi always plays.
Okay. And then now we're getting to the controversial bit of the pod. Our centre forward pairing. Joe, can you give me the first name, please?
Yeah, Johnny Johnston. I'm only kidding. Although he should be on the bench, to be fair. I'm going to go with Lavery. Obviously, the goal against Middlesbrough. I think this is the type of game that could build his confidence up. All he's lacking is that little bit of, I don't know what the word is, aggression that he showed early season. He was like a dog with a bone to begin with, and then obviously he got that injury, and he's not quite been at it since. And I think that this is the game where if he gets a full 90 under his belt, gets a couple of goals, it could really reignite his season. So yeah, I'd go with Lavery.
All right, so we've got Lavery in there. Now, Giorgio in the comments says John Jules has to play, and I agree with you. I want to put John Jules in there. It's his last Hail Mary chance to prove that he is actually a good player.
Will Arsenal allow him? Will he be cup tied? So
I think it's too late. I think it's too late, me personally, for John Jules. I think that if we play him for the next 3 games, I don't think Arsenal are suddenly going to turn around and change their minds. I think they've probably got their minds set either way. But please, can we remove John Jules?
Hey, you're wrong, Sean. You're the type of person who, if the love of your life was getting on a plane to a different country, you wouldn't run through the airport to chase that. And you just don't. But it's never too late, Sean. Never too late. Never give up.
I would. What on earth? I struggle between Yates and Lavery because I think they both have elements of their game that they could build confidence with at the moment. I don't think they're both 100% at what they are, but I agree with Joe that probably Lavery's the one that edges it. And I think that he'd suit a game like this. I think that he's the kind of guy that will go and score a couple of goals and he'll be fine again. I would play Medine instead of John Jules because we've had a week out.
Can I just interject for 1 second? Everybody's saying, "Oh, why don't you play Lavery and Yates together?" And everyone's like, no. Isn't this the perfect type of game to try that experiment in? Where
no,
if
I've
it
still
doesn't
got
work,
fond. I think it's a. I don't think they suit a game like this. They suit a game where teams will come at you, and I don't think Hartlepool will. Hartlepool will be too. I think they'll be cautious, and cautious games against strong League Two defences, I guess, is a Medine game. Mitch is saying Medine's too important to risk. Like if he's fine, he's had a week's break. If you can't hack playing Hartlepool away, then that's not my problem.
plus he'll be used to the cold. He's from up there, isn't he? So
that is exactly. I would Medine, and I would just because I think this is a really good game for us to go and really pace the team. We've not paced a team in ages, and I just think the confidence it will bring if we just went out and won 3-4-0. Then we'd be fine. But like if we then next weekend that we play him in the league and then he gets injured, then it's like if he's going to get injured, he's going to get injured. It's not. We can't keep putting players wrapping him in cotton wool if they're an important asset.
So Giorgio making an excellent point that, like Medine, John Jules is also quite tall and also has pace. So again, it's John Jules actually the player we're completely missing here.
I think do you know what? Throw John Jules in because I want to see Twitter react to that. Please put John Jules in. I agree. I actually 100% agree that John Jules deserves a chance. I would love to see John Jules score a goal. I want to see John Jules succeed more than anyone in the world. So I will go John Jules and Lavery 4-4-2 at Hartlepool away in the freezing cold. And
let's be honest though. On paper, that's a fairly strong team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that should be.
That's why I was pushing for more people like Antwi or Casey, but I'm clearly up against two cold-hearted stodgers who don't want to give the youth a chance.
No, I disagree. I think we should give youth a chance. I think that the bench should be the majority, especially if you've got 9 for FA Cup games. I think that the bench should be made up of mostly youth. I'd have 3 or 4 of the lads on. That your likes of Trusty, Moore, Johnston, he seems to score a lot of goals for the youth. I'd take 3 or 4 of the lads that up to Hartlepool, definitely. But at the end of the day, like I said earlier, the FA Cup is really our season now. We're going to stay up. I know a lot of people always, especially on Twitter, look behind them. Oh, if we lose this game, if the teams win games in hand. Look, at the end of the day, as much as it'd be hilarious if Derby County did stay up, I can't see them doing it. Peterborough are terrible. Barnsley aren't much better. We're going to stay up. All that's really left is the FA Cup, and I'd like to get as far in the competition as possible. And I'm sure that Neil Critchley does too.
I have seen a comment there that I think it's a Hartlepool fan saying that we're well confident that we're going to score a back full. I am not confident. I fully expect us to make an absolute tit up of this game. But
I mean,
you cannot.
You said it was going to be 3-0. I said that it could go to extra time.
It should be. If we just do our thing, it should be. But it has all the elements of a shit show. But we should win 3-0. So it's kind of like one of those, like, realistically, we should win this game convincingly. We should just have control of the game. I just think that last season, the way that we professionally went through those 2 games against Eastbourne and Harrogate, I don't have as many worries as I probably would in the past coming up against a lower league team. So,
with respect to Eastbourne, Hartlepool are a much, much better team than Eastbourne.
You've shown more faces tonight, Sean, than a Guess Who board. You know.
Yes, I know, because I'm trying to cover all bases, and then I can just say, well, there you go. I did say, if we get battered.
This isn't baseball, Sean. It's transparent. It's disgusting.
Luke Marriott will get minutes. There's a prediction for you. Luke Marriott will get half an hour.
And I think something else we have to bear in mind, that it's all well and good us putting this 11 here. 2 of them might have COVID.
Yeah.
Because I know there's been another 2 cases, and we've got another.
I'm trying to think if Reece James. I've been thinking for about 15 minutes if Reece James is even available. I'm sure he is now. I'm sure he was one of the cases, but I'm not.
I mean, now you don't have to test on the day of the match, so we've only got 1 day to worry, because we all know that
we did have today, because obviously I did the thing saying 2 cases, but that was the press conference was before training, so it'll have been today as well, and then tomorrow.
Oh right, okay. Well, we've only got tomorrow to survive then, haven't we? Because there's no COVID on a Saturday. Nobody can catch COVID on a Saturday.
That's correct.
As the EFL have told everybody. So, yeah, hopefully
that's one of my favourite things about COVID, actually, is that it observes, the Jewish Sabbath.
It's great. I mean,
I know, right?
It doesn't go in a pub until after 8 o'clock. I tell you what, it's a stickler for time. It's COVID. It's great.
COVID is better at following the rules than Boris Johnson. There we go. Right. We'll finish our lineup. We'll put that on Twitter. I'll get lots of hate for, desperately trying to shoehorn John Jules. Yeah.
I can't wait for the John Jules.
My laptop is on 6% battery. So
all right, well, before you say that, I'll quickly go. Owen Dale. We're in discussions with Crew about a permanent deal. It sounds like we're trying to drive the price down. There's 4 days left on loan. I don't think we'll sign him for anything less than $250,000 probably. I don't think we're going to push the boat out for him, but if we can sign him and do business with him and it'll make financial sense for both teams to do it, then I think it's a good bit of business, because I think that there's a player there, and I think that it's very, very harsh to write off a player after 4 starts. I find that, well, you've got to have a much bigger sample size than that, and playing in the formation that he wants to. So, so Owen Dale, everyone. Let's hope so, eh?
All right, so we'll keep our fingers crossed then. Regular listeners to the pod may remember that when we had Bournemouth on, they brought international support to the podcast from Germany and all over the world. Paul is somehow still listening to the preview show many months later. We love that, Paul. We love you. Thank you for chiming in. And thank you to all our regular listeners who have chimed in and listened to the preview show. You're why we do it. Let's hope we get a result on Saturday. Up the pool.
Up the
Liverpool.
pool.